In the last video, I covered the robber barons, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Cornelius Vanderbilt, and John D. Rockefeller. Also, I went over vertical and horizontal integration. Now, in this video, I will cover what the robber barons did with all their wealth and power. Okay, in the video, I'm going to be discussing the gospel of wealth and philanthropy. Okay, the question I would like to put forth is, what effects did social Darwinism and the gospel of wealth have on society as a whole? Now, also, one of my viewers asked the question, why were these men called robber barons? Well, let's find out, shall we? Now, as I explained in the last video, Andrew Carnegie amassed his fortune through investments and Carnegie Steel. Now, when he sold his steel company to J.P. Morgan in 1901, Carnegie was worth approximately $380 million. Now, in 2023 dollars, that is about $308 billion. And this was before federal personal income tax. Around the 1890s, Carnegie started becoming active in social welfare programs. In 1889, he published an essay titled Wealth, which was later changed to The Gospel of Wealth. There's a link in the description below to this essay. It's pretty good reading. Okay, he believed that men who continued hoarding great sums all their lives die in disgrace. His essay details why the rich need to be philanthropic with their fortunes. Now, Carnegie donated an estimated $350,695,654 for various causes by the time of his death. Public libraries, laboratories, hospitals, education, science, pensions, Civil Heroism Awards, Music Awards, and World Peace Awards. Andrew Carnegie's dictum or principle were to spend the first third of one's life getting all the education one can, to spend the next third making all the money one can, and to spend the last third giving it all away for worthwhile causes. In his essay, Wealth, he states, "This then is held to be the duty of the men of wealth. First, to set an example of modest, unostentatious living, shunning displays or extravagance." Okay then, that sounds good, but, and there's always a but, it was during this philanthropic period that he purchased Skippo Castle right here in Scotland, where he lived when he wasn't living in his mansion at 2nd East 91st Street at 5th Avenue on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, New York City. Hey, you know. Okay. The next up is John D. Rockefeller. Now, the website Philanthropy Roundtable states, a natural businessman with a strong moral sense and intense religious convictions. He dedicated unprecedented resources to charity. Within his lifetime, Rockefeller helped launch the field of biomedical research, funding scientific investigations that resulted in vaccines for diseases like meningitis, yellow fever. He revolutionized medical training in the United States. He also built China's first proper medical school. He championed the cause of public sanitation, creating schools of public health at Johns Hopkins and Harvard. He also helped lead major international public health efforts against hookworm, malaria, yellow fever. These were all killers back then, and other maladies. He vigorously promoted the cause of education nationwide without distinction of sex, race, or creed. He created the University of Chicago virtually from scratch, and within a decade turned it into one of the world's leading universities. Now, Rockefeller might have been an astute businessman, but he understood the need to give back to society. Now, let's look at Cornelius Vanderbilt. While compared to Carnegie and Rockefeller, he was a cheapskate. He never gave in any significant amount money to any charities while he was alive. However, when he died, his fortune was estimated to be about $105 million in 1877 money. He did leave $1 million to build Vanderbilt University and another $50,000 to the Church of the Strangers in New York City. Vanderbilt was all about making profit. Interestingly enough, his grandson, Cornelius II, built a summer cottage with a waterfront view in Newport, Rhode Island. He named it The Breakers. Can't make this stuff up. Now, the last of our robber barons is J.P. Morgan. And the website again, Philanthropy Roundtable, wrote of Morgan, Morgan was a man of truly Catholic charitable interests. In addition to his lifelong engagement with the arts, he bought art all over the world. He was deeply interested in the natural sciences. A trustee of the American Museum of Natural History for over 44 years, Morgan served on the board from the museum's opening in 1869 until his death in 1913. He was often the museum's lead donor, frequently giving under conditions of anonymity. He served at various times as the vice president, treasurer, and finance committee chairman. Among his many contributions to the museum were collections of minerals, gems, meteorites, amber, books, prehistoric Southern American relics, American Indian costumes, fossils, vertebrates, skeletons, and the mummies of pre-Columbian miners that had been preserved in copper salt. Now, when he died, his fortune was estimated at about $80 million. Rockefeller said, "I didn't know he was so poor." Now, the definition of a robber baron from the Oxford Language Dictionary is a person who has become rich through ruthless and unscrupulous business practice, originally in reference to the prominent U.S. businessmen in the late 19th century, and both political parties served the interest of the corporate robber barons. Okay, so even though Cornelius Vanderbilt gave nothing to charities compared to the other industrialists, he was a businessman. When he was having trouble with competing railroad lines into New York City, he simply closed the Hudson River Bridge, the only railroad bridge into the city, and since he owned that bridge, why should he let his competition use it? Now, this move allowed Vanderbilt to purchase the competing railroads cheaply because they were hemorrhaging money. Now, another example of Vanderbilt's business acumen was the takeover of the Stonington Railway line. Now, since Vanderbilt dominated the steamboat business on Long Island, he began to take over the management of the connecting railroads throughout Long Island in 1840. Now, he launched a campaign to take over the most attractive of those lines, the New York, Providence, and Boston Railroad. This was popularly known as the Stonington Line. Now, by cutting fares on the competing lines, Vanderbilt drove down Stonington's stock price. They started hemorrhaging money. He then took over the presidency of the company in 1847. It was the first of the many railroads he would head. Okay, now, John D. Rockefeller. He went after the independent oil refineries. It has been said he would show the owners his books, then make an offer. If they refused to sell, he would then drive the owners into bankruptcy. Also, shipping oil by rail was becoming prohibitively expensive, causing the price of Standard Oil to go up for the consumer. Rockefeller built his own pipeline, thereby controlling his shipping costs and then forcing the railroads to rethink Standard Oil shipping contracts. That's where he got into the infamous rebates and pushing his competitor prices up on shipping. Okay, now J.P. Morgan was a financier. He raised money, which in turn financed the businesses of other industrialists. Now, it is true that he purchased Carnegie Steel Company and built U.S. Steel into the largest steel producing company in the world. But why would he purchase the company if he could not make a profit and grow it? It doesn't make sense business-wise. Now, Andrew Carnegie's essay, Wealth Says It All. Yes, they were tough businessmen, and he believed in the old adage, with great wealth comes greater responsibility. He personally funded, like I said, free public libraries, hospitals, research centers, and many other social welfare programs. Now, this video is getting a little close to 10 minutes, and I don't want to go over that. So, I'll cover mixed economy, the Gilded Age, and political corruption in the next video. Here are a couple of questions that I mentioned earlier that I would really be interested in reading what you believe or what you think. Now, were these men robber barons, or were they just businessmen of their time who conducted their business as the times allowed? Now, the next question is a little bit deeper. What effects did social Darwinism and the gospel of wealth have on society? Why do you think these men were called robber barons? Okay, now, please, kids, remember, review your notes every day for about 10 minutes. Again, you will be amazed at how much knowledge you will retain. Okay, I hope this video helps you in class. I also hope you liked it. If you liked the video and want to see more short 5 to 10 minute videos on U.S. history, click the like button, ring the bell, and subscribe to my channel. But most importantly, leave a comment below. Thank you for watching.